Hey everybody, Chris Raygun here. Welcome to Glasses Off, an occasional series I do where I share my opinions on topics I've covered before on the channel, without my overbearingly sarcastic YouTube persona. The gameplay you're seeing now is just filler, just something for you to watch if you get bored of me talking, so think of this as more of an audio podcast than anything else. Now today we're going to be talking about feminism, and why you don't need feminism to be in favor of gender equality. Now if you saw the first Glasses Off I did back in November, some of this video might seem a bit familiar. But I've had a few new thoughts since then, and also there are a lot more of you than there were back then, so I think it's worth delving into again. First, I want to talk about what separates feminism from just any old ideology, and to do that we need to discuss two things in particular: ideology and activism. Activism is defined as the policy or action of using vigorous campaigning to bring about political or social change. Activism usually takes the form of movements, like Occupy Wall Street or the women's rights movement, things like that. It exists to bring about change. It has a goal in mind, and when that goal is reached, the movement disperses and activism for that cause ends. Ideologies, on the other hand, are very, very, very different. Ideology is defined as a system of ideas and ideals, especially one that forms the basis of economic or political theory and policy. Of course, ideas and ideals mean nothing if they're not embraced by more than just one person. So an ideology's purpose is to propagate, to remain relevant. While there are core ideas that can inform future decisions, there is no one goal in any given ideology. The goal is to sustain itself. Like a religion, an ideology is only as good as the number of people who believe it, and who keep believing it. Activism, on the other hand, is only as good as its ability to get specific things done. This is where feminism finds itself in kind of a strange place, because it's an ideology born of activism. The women's rights movement was a movement that fought for women's right to vote, equal pay for women, and gender equality under the law. They succeeded in this. The Equal Pay Act was passed into federal law. Women got the right to vote while also being exempt from the draft. And all the strides that could be made under the banner of gender equality from a legal standpoint had been made. When that happened, the women's rights movement ended. They had served their purpose. Feminism, on the other hand, is everything the women's rights movement was, only in an ideological framework, which simply doesn't work. You can't have an ideology based on something that has already been achieved. The reason liberalism and conservatism are valid ideologies, valid principles, is because they are each a set of values and beliefs that affect how decisions should be made and what decisions should be made. Feminism is a set of values based on decisions that have already been decided, and that very few, if any, people are actually contesting. Of course, since feminism is the ideological form of the women's rights movement, instead of disappearing when its goal has been achieved, it instead needs to invent new reasons for why it is still relevant, new ways for the ideology to propagate. This leads to complaints about menial things like the gender pay gap. Now, despite the fact that it's illegal to pay women less than men for equal work, according to the Equal Pay Act, equal pay for women is still a feminist cry in 2016. Several decades after this goal has already been achieved. The gender pay gap does exist, to be sure, but it's not because women get paid less for equal work than men do. It's due to the fact that men typically work those same jobs for a longer overall period of time than their female counterparts. The fact that women are the only sex that can birth children is a biological element that contributes to this discrepancy as well, since women on average choose to raise a family over their careers more often than men do. In short, the gender pay gap is a matter of choice, not a matter of oppression. And that's not to say men work harder than women, as many idiots have claimed, only that, on average, more men spend more hours at work than women do. Nobody is paying women less because they are women. If they were, there would be no incentive to hire men. A company's main concern is its bottom line, and if they can simply only hire women and guarantee a bigger profit for them, they would do so. I mean, so many companies do the same thing already with illegal immigrants. And assuming feminists were right and women are getting paid less for equal work, consider this. Obama is the President of the United States. If there was anyone who could offer a solution to this problem, wouldn't he be the person to do it? Yet he still spouts the same 77 cents on the dollar figure that feminists tout, even though he knows the Equal Pay Act exists. And what about all these companies like BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, and all these other companies that have come out in support of equal pay? I think I even remember a Fox News anchor making that point once. I mean, really think about this. Women get paid less than men everywhere in the United States. Let's just assume that this is true. How could I, as a company, take a stand against that policy. Taking a stand against that policy means one of two things. Option A, either I am complicit in a system that pays women less despite being ideologically opposed to such a practice. Or option B, I pay my employees equally, thus disproving the unequal pay point altogether. So a company coming out in favor of equal pay can only either be lying maliciously about their stances, or they are proving that there is no actual problem. In an attempt to live past its purpose, feminism has reached a point where it's arguing against problems that are not there, systems that are not in place, and situations that simply aren't problems. So what? First-person shooter games are dominated by males. Why is that an issue? Nobody is legislating that. Nobody's mandating that, you know? That's simply people's choices. Men aren't complaining that there aren't enough Lifetime movies catered to their demographic. Why would some subsections of video games being too masculine be a point of concern for feminism? So do you need to be a feminist to believe in gender equality? No. Feminism is a twisted form of something that was once a necessary stepping stone for progress. What was once a guiding set of principles for the women's rights movement has become a clusterfuck of an ideology going through an identity crisis, the likes of which I've never seen before. The belief that men and women are equal already has a term. It's called egalitarianism. Feminism does not own the concept of gender equality any more than Christianity owns the concept of the golden rule. You can believe in some feminist ideas without being a feminist. You can believe in some elements of Christianity without being a Christian. I mean, thou shalt not kill is a pretty decent rule, don't you think? So when somebody says, oh, you believe in gender equality, therefore you are a feminist, send them this video. I think I addressed some points that I haven't seen addressed anywhere else, and if they have been addressed, I haven't seen them. So I'm glad you suffered through this video with me. I apologize for the lack of wacky, funny, sarcastic videos lately, but allergies have been kicking my ass, so I'm working on one right now, so don't fret, it won't be too long before you see one. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Chris Raygun, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.